I think music in video games is great nowadays. It's come a long way from the bleeps and bloops we had from like the Atari era, you know, and now you got full orchestras and rock bands.
I remember years ago, the official sort of "I've made it" to a band was when they would hear their song on the radio for the first time. That's gone. Now it's all about, how do I get my song into Madden?
Music and video games is a combination that's been together for years. They go together like peas and carrots, Starsky and Hutch, and Turner and Hooch.
It's an integral part of the game. I mean, you know, think about it. When you're playing a game, the music dictates the action or the suspense.
Well, I think, you know, for example, if you were to play Super Mario Brothers or any video game and turn the volume off, you'd suddenly find yourself rather disconnected from the game.
You know, the Magnavox Odyssey, the first home console, didn't have any sound in it. Back then, the technology, you couldn't really put a lot of things together, so it would just be, okay, we got the graphics and the thing moves. Great.
Think of that, there was no sound at all. Like you just, all right, I'm gonna turn on my FM stereo and listen to some classic rock, you know, because there was no music.
To be really amazed to see how far gaming and sound has gone together, just play about 5 seconds of Pong.
Pong actually had a pretty good soundtrack. I mean, it was simple, but that's what was good about it. It was just two beeping sounds, right? See, that's simple. So maybe not so good, but very simple.
Well, we would love to perform it for you if we may.
Well, yes, with a little bit of interpretive dance thrown in too.
Boop, boop, boop.
It goes like that.
Yeah. There's an extended dance mix, but we'll spare you that.
Back in the late 70s, early 80s, you had Asteroids and Space Invaders in the arcades. And while they didn't have music per se, they had this sort of sound effects that sped up as you got higher and higher or further along in the game.
Asteroids had the Jaws theme, a little tweaked. It was like dun 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 dun, which would speed up, you know, when you were about to die.
And it's funny how what passed for music back then was still effective at ratcheting up the tension.
Back when video games started and when we were coming up, the technology wasn't there to actually put full songs into the video games.
What they would do instead, though, they would make songs about video games.
Like tributes to the video games.
Yeah.
Space Invaders.
Pac-Man Fever.
I actually own my very own copy of Pac-Man Fever by Buckner and Garcia. It's their entire album. They had Pac-Man Fever, and that was like the big hit song. And then they churned out an album of quick filler material like Frogger's Lament and Ode to a Centipede and Do the Donkey Kong. You know, I've actually spun this at clubs, and only the nerds dance, and badly, but at least they're out there doing it.
Those jerks stole our song. We had Pac-Man Fever, and there were songs about gobbling everything in sight. Yes, that is true.
I did have Pac-Man Fever. When that song came out, I was actually home from school with Pac-Man Fever, 102 degrees. I also got Pac-Man Diarrhea, Pac-Man Vomits, which was devastating.
With the advent of the Nintendo, that's when gaming music started to become more of an art form than just bleeps and bloops.
I think with Nintendo, you really got to start with the themes for Zelda and Super Mario Brothers. Those were like iconic. They're definitely burned into our generation's brains.
The theme song for Mario Brothers is just so classic. You know, I think any generation could sing the theme song to Mario Brothers.
My favorite music from a video game in the Nintendo era probably was Zelda. It was epic.
The orchestral music in Legend of Zelda and the sort of the Zelda series is quite good. It's orchestral and sort of sweeping.
You know, these were the pioneers in the collaboration and using music and how it sort of changed the way you played, so to speak.
I'd say the first game that ever had a theme, you know, a theme song, it's got to be Tetris.
There was the, you know, the Russian "I'm drunk and dancing with my legs" music. Do, 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 do.
The theme music from Tetris was Tchaikovsky's Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies, which if I heard it playing right now and you said, "What's that from?" I'd say Tetris, because I don't know much about Tchaikovsky.
I think if Tchaikovsky were alive today, he'd be super proud of that fact. He would be in bars saying, "Hey, you recognize this song? That's me, I'm the Tetris guy."
1989 for the Sega Genesis, Michael Jackson actually went in with Sega on producing a game.
I remember Moonwalker as being one of the pinnacles of video games. It was Michael Jackson based. Sega had him make games for Sega Genesis and the arcade.
Bands actually in video games, famous ones that come to mind are Aerosmith in the terrible game, Revolution X.
Wake up! The revolution has begun! Generation X is in effect!
Aerosmith was in Revolution X, and I wish Aerosmith would go away and never come back.
I just want to see Aerosmith back on heroin and having babies from different mothers, and writing songs about them.
You had Aerosmith in a video game. There was Journey had their own video game.
The best part about that game is you can actually play it and just fail, and in doing so, it actually negates Journey's existence.
Thus saving the universe.
Ironically.
As the technology for video game consoles got better, so did the music, especially in 1995 with the debut of the PlayStation 1.
Well, you know, I could play CDs, which was huge. I mean, that was unheard of at the time. But based on that, then, you know, games could have more sophisticated soundtracks.
Yeah, different soundtracks always inspire different genres. For example, the horror genre, the first horror game that had the best music was definitely Resident Evil.
It's not this huge, like, pumping soundtrack. It's usually something very like in a movie when there's a, you know, a murder scene and someone's sneaking up and it's got a real sort of, you know, low cinematic feel to it. And it's great. It's just like watching a movie.
Mood and pace set by the music in that game very well. You need music to scare the pants off someone, or more rather, to require someone to put on new pants after you scare them.
I think the first game that really had kind of real music for the PS1 was Wipeout XL. I think it was like '96, and you had like Underworld, and you had like Chemical Brothers, and that was the first time you're like, there's like real songs in this game. It's like going to the club. I could sit home and play this game instead of going to the club. It was fantastic.
It kind of opened the door for music in video games. It was one of the first times you got to really see well-known artists in games.
The game that really broke the rhythm genre through to the mainstream, though, was Parappa the Rapper. You played this kind of cute, rapping puppy character who would interact with other characters through songs.
They'll play certain songs and you have to hit buttons on the controller, like in time with the music.
Unlike other rappers, though, he didn't brag about his sexual potency.
In the rain or in the snow. In the rain or in the snow. Got the funky flow. Got the funky flow.
I think he's in the witness protection program now because he snitched.
Parappa?
Yeah.
Yeah, Parappa rapid on the wrong guy. Actually, that Rastafarian frog.
He could have had a bigger crew with him because his crew of farm animals was pretty soft.